So much. Really happy to be here this morning. I'm always happiest when I'm in a group of amazing, powerful women. And so just really lucky to be here with you today. I think we, ever since we started working from home, I feel like I don't get as many opportunities. I'm not out and about as much, and I'm just, it's always super inspirational. So thank you for being here. I'm super excited to, introduce our panel. And I'm actually going to bring them up, and I'm going to let them do a little introduction themselves, because I always feel like just that coming from them is, just a really powerful way just to hear about what they're doing. So I'm going to invite you all up. First of all, Shalou Barth with Ghostline Kitchen. She's the co-founder and CEO. Michelle Connor, the owner of Beyond the Happy. And Stephanie Martinez Houston, the founder of Island Getaway Rum. I'm going to come over here and sit, because that way I'm kind of looking at you, so rather than turning. So love for you guys just to give us a little, just tell us a little bit about yourself and then we'll get into your journey. So Stephanie, you want to start?
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Can you guys hear me okay? No? Okay. How about now? Is that better?
It's not on.
Oh, it's not on. Okay. How do we do that?
Well, no.
There's a little, yep, there you go. There's a little power button on the left. That one's on.
There we go.
Okay. How about now? Is that better?
There we go.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So my name is Stephanie. I am so excited to be here today. I've been a lifelong entrepreneur, 25 years doing this. I'm originally from a little town in Dallas called Oak Cliff, but I came here to Austin, so I'm a Longhorn, and have been back in Austin now after a career in healthcare in Dallas. And at that time, I owned a medical staffing company. We staffed hospitals in all 50 states. And sold that company in 2008, and it allowed me to sort of go down this really interesting pathway of entertainment, music venues, and then all the way to rum production. So super excited to be here today, and I just want to give the City of Austin a quick shout out, because it took us 14 months to go round and round with the federal government for our MBE certification. I finally applied with the City of Austin, and we got it in 2 weeks. So use that resource, ladies.
Awesome. Good morning. I'm so excited to be here. I'm Michelle Connor, and I am the owner of Beyond the Happy. I say that entrepreneurship is my second life. I was in education for 14 years, and at the height of the pandemic, decided to go into full-time private practice to support women who were on this journey navigating their mental health and the spike of people that were needing support with their mental health. And so I launched Beyond the Happy in February of 2020. I had a little office space that I was leasing, and I had one client. I was so proud. And you couldn't tell me nothing. Here I am, a big girl with a big business. But I was also working part-time for the district that I was a part of. And so I started Beyond the Happy in February, and then the pandemic happened in March, and I quickly had to pivot. But by 2022, I found myself in full-time entrepreneurship, supporting hundreds of people through my private practice. But another part of what I do is support corporate organizations. We work with Google and the United States Air Force to provide wellness events for their staff to really highlight the importance of making sure that we are well so that we can do our work well. It doesn't work in the reverse. And so I'm really proud and excited to do this work in the community, and I'm excited to be here. So thank you all.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm Shalou Barth. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Ghostline Kitchens. The last 15 years or so, I've been actively an entrepreneur, but it was a very meandering path. It didn't start that way. With a business that I was actively running or launching. I did when I was a kid. I grew up in Texas, so West Texas and then outside Houston. When I was a kid, my mom reminded me the other day that I apparently said I wanted to be a pediatric cardiologist. I don't really remember that. What I do remember is when I was in high school, I was surrounded by a lot of doctors. My mom's family has a lot of MDs, and I saw that life, and I was like, oh, the beepers going off. And wasn't that appealing. And then I went to the East Coast to visit her oldest brother, who was an executive on Wall Street. And he was hanging out with a colleague, smoking cigars and talking about millions of dollars and big new ideas that were coming out. And that like lit the fire for me. It was like, I want to do something from scratch, from ground up. I want to create, I want to be part of innovation and have some fun while I'm at it. So that's kind of where my entrepreneurial spark began. I started pitching business ideas as in high school and college, but it wasn't until I armed myself with a little more tools in my toolkit. I went to undergrad and grad at UT, and after getting an MBA, I felt like I was truly ready to kind of go out there and have been actively in male-dominant industries. So excited to talk about that with you guys, and thanks for having me.
So how many of you remember what a beeper is? There may be some youngins in here that are like, beeper. I don't know. Unless you're watching some of those old medical dramas, on Netflix.
I'm dating myself. You see the gray hairs? Yeah.
Thank you guys so much, and I think that I love to hear about people's paths and their journeys rather than just their bios, because as you can see, just seeking out, like trying to solve a problem and doing something that they're passionate about and like being part of innovation. I mean, you heard those things, and I think that's what I love about women entrepreneurs is there is that passion and that drive and really wanting to make a difference. And I think that's super exciting. So we obviously heard a lot, from the mayor about the task force and some of those findings. And look, it's no secret. I mean, I've been in this world for a long, long time. So none of the findings were even an inkling of a surprise to me. But about what's happening with gender bias. So I'd like for each of you just to talk a little bit about sort of this entrepreneurial ecosystem, and when you dove into that, what kind of particular challenges did you face, or have you seen other women face? Really kind of talking about that, based on that gender bias that we that has been mentioned. So, Stephanie.
I think for me, obviously spirits and just basically alcohol in general is, of course, extremely male-dominated, and it's primarily dominated by giant companies. And these are families that have been running alcohol since Prohibition here in the United States, right? So it's not an easy industry to necessarily crack into. And I think for me, one of the things that I found out is we started this distillery in 2016. And I say that because there was, I had a partner and another partner as well. It wasn't just me by myself, but what we quickly realized is that we had the first Latina-owned distillery in the United States. And that is important, not because it makes us better, it's because it shows that our history of doing this kind of thing is not that long-standing. And I think putting those types of just the knowledge of that, I didn't know we were doing that. So you have to think about it. You guys are probably doing things that you don't even know that you're doing because nobody has done it before. And so this is the time, I think, to really understand why there's so much bias, because we haven't been doing these things for very long. So think about it, like alcohol's been around forever and ever, and you're telling me that 2016 was the first time that a woman of color in the state of Texas had a distillery? That's crazy. So I think that, it's just a lot of the playing field is full of men, and, I'm part of a fantastic organization. But there's a lot of head patting, oh, I love your little distillery, it's so cute. That's amazing, right? I was a business person before this. And so I think, we're always trying to challenge ourselves. I'm always trying to go out, talk to people, inspire people to do things. You guys know, being an entrepreneur, extreme highs, extreme lows. This has been a crazy year for me. And so I'm going to be honest, like I've leaned into some of those things like female minority, help us, we need help, I need help this year from you. You're a $17 billion company, I need your help. How can I navigate this with you? Why are you expecting me to pay for this? You know, it's not even about just gender, but a lot of it is based around economics. And so for me, I think I'm always learning, and I always learn more and more and more about how unlevel the playing field is on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, that's really good. I think for me, when it comes to mental health, there's stigma attached to it at the foundation. It's getting better, but there's still stigma there. And then you add this layer of, it's like a touchy-feely type of profession, right? Like we're talking about feelings. And so when I am trying to go into corporate organizations and talk about why it's important for their employees to feel well, often I'm met with, but how does this go over with engineers, right? Like, how are you, like, engineers aren't people, right? And so there's this bias of like, do you know enough? Can you really provide value? Because one, you're talking about mental health and we don't really know if that's what we need here. Two, you're a woman talking about it. Three, you're a Black woman talking about it. And so there's all these layers that I'm having to navigate just to get in the door and say, look, I know what I'm talking about and I know this is valuable. And so there's this resistance that I've found that I'm met with, one, because of who I am and then what I'm talking about. But I think one of the things I always stick to is I know how valuable what I am talking about, what I am doing with people is. I know how it changes lives. And so I had to get used to like a lot of no's and rejection. But I think when you are doing something that you are called to do, it helps you to persevere, even when gender bias is present. So.
Well, I kind of have a different take on this in that I have naturally sort of viewed situations where there's way more men at the table, maybe no women at the table, as potential opportunity, right? I mean, if you think about sort of the situation as a, big fish, small pond, or, a specific example in my life, one of my first sort of real estate development endeavors was a property I had found. It was on the market for a year. It was under contract by a commercial property, under contract by a big firm in town. And I was a week or two into the due diligence period. I found something strange in the deed that would prevent the property from succeeding. And I was like, oh, well, that's why that big company bailed. But I called a meeting, and interestingly, the broker and the attorney were, one of the guys was the single largest property owner in Central Texas. I came to a table with that person and 9 other men and me. I was also the only person of color, so I've got 2 things going for me here at the table. And everyone said that the deed couldn't be changed, and that was what it was. So I did a couple things. I asked for more time because I just wasn't ready to take no. I just couldn't accept that was the end of this venture for me. So I asked for more time. They gave me, I think, 15 or 30 days, which is not a lot of time for tackling an issue like this. And the men at the table, including one that was a real estate attorney who should know what the possibilities are, and you should be able to rely on that information. Well, I took one day for meditation and just took some time. Like, is this the end of this? I was really excited about the opportunity. And then the next day I got back on my feet and I got on my computer and I dug through the internet and I uncovered a case from the 1980s that found a different way around this. And these guys, the 9 men from the table, had no idea about this. They didn't know it existed. And we ended up pursuing it, and we were successful. And that was my first real estate development opportunity. And it's like, these are, when you're in these situations, sorry, I know there's some guys in the room here, but men don't always know they're confident. But that can be that can work against them, right? And so remember that, like, you know, just because you're a female at the table and you're new at something, it doesn't mean you can hustle, that you have merit and persistence and tenacity to overcome. And it can be a huge opportunity.
I love that so much, because I think this really highlights what we all know is present. We hate it, but we know it, and that's the confidence gap. And I think that is such a perfect example of you know, us just, you know, pushing through that and asking the questions. I also think it outlines how creative women are at problem solving. You know, we're always looking at, like, what's this collaborative approach and how could we figure out a way around this rather than just this black and white situation. So I think that's really, really awesome. And just pushing through that, you know, sometimes if we acknowledge, like, we know there's a confidence gap, there just is. I have it, I'm sure all of you in the room have it to some extent, but if we know it, then we can push past it when we're in those situations because we're acknowledging it. So let's talk a little bit about sort of this idea of, you know, time and all these responsibilities that women in particular have, you know, caring for young kids. We talked about, you know, a child care issue, caring for aging parents, you know, really still being the one who runs the household in many of the situations, and how that works and how challenging that is. And so, you know, it's often termed as work-life balance, which is one of those things I always am like, gosh, we need to come up with a different term for that.
Yeah.
Because it's really, it becomes, you know, we all know it's not there, but it's something that we also all struggle with. And I think that layered on top of that, and this is something, it's not new per se, but it certainly is much more prevalent. Just even in the last few years, and that is the mental health crisis that's happening in our country. And I think that women are often affected by that because we have so many other pressures than just that one thing. So I kind of want just to talk about, you know, how you prioritize, you know, your time and your responsibilities to family and all these other things, right? All these other pressures that we have, and actually stay sane. So these also tell us how to do that, you know, and really how do we overcome those things and get the help that we need. So you want to kick us off?
Oh, sure. Wow, it's such a big question. I'll start with this funny story. So I often tell people that I'm obsessed with the weather forecast. So I watch the weather all the time. It's bizarre. But the reason why I do it is I have a almost 7-year-old and an 11-year-old. And you know how the weather changed today?
Oh, yes.
A week ago, when it was projected, I was already thinking about, okay, does my daughter have pants? Where are the jackets? Where are the coats? In my mind, I'm like, I have to stay a step ahead because no one else in the family is thinking about the temperature dropping. It's those tabs as women that are always open in our brains that makes it increasingly difficult for us to just focus in on one thing. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna focus on this, but I have all of these tabs open. I'm thinking about what the weather's going to be like in a week so I know what my kids are going to wear. And it's that type of pressure that is very unique to us that we are having to deal with. And so when it comes to work-life balance, I don't believe in it. I don't believe in that phrasing. I do believe in balance, but I think it also comes with another level of pressure that says I should be able to do all of these things well. That's just not possible, nor is it expected of us to do everything well or everything with perfection. And so what I like to tell myself in order to kind of keep myself in alignment with what I want is, if I say yes to this, what does it cost me? Because the yes costs something somewhere. And when I ask myself what it costs me, then I ask myself, am I willing to pay that? And that keeps me in alignment with doing what I feel like I need to do in the moment. Sometimes I'm saying yes to my kids and no to Beyond the Happy. Sometimes I'm saying yes to my partner and no to my children at the time, right? But every yes that I'm giving, I'm asking myself, what is it costing me? And is that something I'm willing to pay? And I think that's how you start to live a life that is balanced, but it's balanced on your own terms. Because for me to have the expectation that I can do it all and can do it all well, that is when my mental health will suffer. Because no one's checking and seeing, are you okay? Are you able to do all of this? And so I think what I would charge each of us with is just whatever your yes is for the day, for the hour, ask yourself, what does it cost me? And do I want to pay that? I think that's what helps keep me in alignment with feeling that I'm doing the best I can in all the different areas.
I love the imagery of the tabs.
Yes.
Because I do find I'm like the least ADD person. At least I used to be, but I feel like we all have it now and sometimes I find myself, I'm like, oh wait, and then I'll go to the next time, and I don't have any sense of priority.
Yeah.
So I love that. Just like, and once you sort of decide, okay, I'm going to go forward with this, close the other tabs, right?
Yeah.
They can always be opened back up tomorrow, but close those other tabs. I love just that. Definitiveness of that. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think what was said about just revisiting expectations is really important. It's taken me decades to figure that one out. I'm still not there, but before I kind of highlight some of my own kind of learnings and insights, how many of you, raise your hand if you're a mom? All right, lots of moms. How many of you have used Paperless Post as it's an invitation platform? Okay, so when you send out these invitations, this is indicative of what falls on a woman's plate. You send out the invitations, you can usually get one email address to send, or you could send it to multiple, but really you're going to a family. Who do you normally choose? The mom. The mom. It's always the mom, right? Like we are just it's layer upon layer. Play date, invitation, birthday present, weather. I mean, we are just, it's endless. It doesn't end. And it is taxing. We got to check in on each other.
Yeah.
And that's what's beautiful about these events is the energy here. And I'm like Melinda, the pandemic and life and obligations, I'm not as good as I should be about getting out into these wonderful networking opportunities and just social environments with wonderful, powerful women. It is rejuvenating. It's part of balance for me. It's both. It's kind of two birds, one stone. But going back to sort of expectations, over the years, I've sort of, depends on what's happening. I have, and we don't always have the luxury of introducing time off breaks, career breaks. So if that can't be done, and I've had the luxury of doing a few of those, and those have turned into times where I have been in a place where I could focus and innovate and work on something new, and here we go, here's a new business now, right? And so if that's possible, those are really important to try and find opportunities. It doesn't have to be this year or next year, but when? Maybe 5 years from now. Maybe that's a goal to take a career break. I really love those. My cousin is a professor at NYU, and she gets to have a sabbatical once every 7 years. And she said, it's really important if the administration sees that you delay in taking it, guess what? You might not get it, right? When that year 7 comes, she's like, yep, I'm in. Because if she passes on it, it might pass by her. It might pass. The administration might say no, because they have to approve it, right? Her superiors have to approve that. So just figuring out what your strategy is and what your needs are at that given time. Maybe it's, hey, this week is really hard. I'm going to be better the rest of this month. Take an hour or two here or there. This year is going to be hard. I'm going to do all these things this year, so that next year I'm in a better place. So it's just dependent on your life and your situation and what your household can support and all of those things. But everyone's going to have a different tactic. And like I said, these events, hey, I'm putting that in a tally in the life balance category.
Right, for sure. Yeah, I'm so glad that they went first. I was like, wow, I need to sign up for that, and I need to talk to you more. I want to talk to Melinda about the confidence gap because, and it's even something I talked to Jackie about this year. This has been an extremely tough year for alcohol. extremely tough. You guys know people are not drinking in massive, massive quantities. There's generational changes that are happening. And I believe they've been happening for a while, and some of the big companies have been hiding it. And so as we're entering into this marketplace, I don't think there was a lot of transparency of the trends. Well, we see them now. You can't escape them. And I've always been, I mentioned I was an entrepreneur for 25 years. Most of that has been spent as a single parent. And so there was no life balance. You got to make that dollar to keep that roof over your head, and to keep your kids going, and to keep everybody fed, and all of those things. And this year was no difference. I was getting my daughter through her senior year, so I'm like, yay! I'm empty nesting this year. This is going to be amazing. And in March, the bottom fell out of the alcohol industry. Our distributor was crashing. Our company was running out of money. I was personally running out of money, and I was having a mental health crisis. The same day, we found out a property that we had was worthless, basically. We owed a lot of money to the SBA, and I also started menopause. And so all of those things quickly drove me, all in the same week, you guys. Let me tell you, I was really looking forward to that. No, I wasn't that week. But it drove me into probably a 12-week mental health crisis. The anxiety was uncontrollable. All of these things compounding. I felt responsible for everything that was happening. I felt responsible for the weather. I felt responsible for everything. I was waking up in a panic, sleeping 15 minutes at a time. I lost 30 pounds in 2 weeks. It was a crisis. Yeah. And I had never in my life needed any kind of medication, and so I called a friend who worked at ARC, and they were like, we'll set you up, because I had lost my health insurance. We had laid off our entire staff. It was a crisis. And I took the first pill and had every possible bad reaction, including suicidal thoughts. So for 24 hours, I had to rely on other people to help me save my own life. It was something that people don't talk about enough, mental health. It's something that can happen to anybody, and it definitely happens when those hormones start raising and dropping and doing all the things that they're doing, and you're sweating and walking around your neighborhood at 4 a.m., or at least that's what I was doing. And it made my confidence go away completely. I had no confidence. I was literally hiding, just trying to survive that time. Luckily, my doctor gave me like a beta blocker, and within 20 minutes I was like, at least my system had cooled down. Mm-hmm. And then I was able to kind of rethink, but I had to take some time this summer to just regroup and think about surviving today. Yeah. I have to survive today. I have to get my daughter moved into college today. I have to pay for this today. I have to rely on my mom. I'm going to be 51 in 2 weeks. I had to rely on my mom to help me meet those bills. It can happen to you. I went from being a millionaire 10 years ago to being broke. These things happen. It's part of the cycle. Extreme highs, extreme lows. And when you get there and when you're doing those things, there's no balance. You're so far out of balance in either direction that it's hard to really recover. But August came around and September came around, and those calls started coming in and said, hey, this rum is still selling. What are you going to do? I was like, we're drinking.
Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing so openly. I know that's not always easy. Awesome Women had an event in September, and we actually had a panel on failure. And when I first, when we were doing all the planning, sort of late in the spring, and I kind of came in, I said, I want to talk about failure. Everybody's looking at me like, what are we? Are people? Why are we doing this? And I think that we don't talk about the down, especially think about social media. We're always putting the happy stuff on there, and all the successes, and it makes all those feel worse, especially when we're, in a bad place. And I think it's a really, really important topic to talk about. We actually put it out on our socials just to, is there anybody out there that wants to tell their story to be on this panel? We got 150 people that responded and wanted to talk about it, and their stories were absolutely amazing. I was blown away. So we're going to be doing a lot more on failure, because just really being able to talk about those things and then see the other side, right? I mean, she's here. She was freaking gorgeous. We're all good, right?
Well, and I was in the midst of failure. I had a huge success before, and so it's kind of like when you win that Grammy, they want you to win a second one, and a third one, and a fourth one, and go win that second Oscar. But what I had seen as a failure, in that early time, I was like, by the time September came around, I was like, so what you're telling me is, for almost 10 years, we built a brand that is selling itself off of that shelf. That is not a failure.
Right.
That was a success. And we're doing it. It's going on its own. That I had to remember the perception of failure is what you make it.
Yeah.
And so I had to work on shifting my mindset back to that, humble, hungry, and being just out there and going to do it, make shit happen. Sorry. But get it done, because that's who we are. That's who we are as women.
Oh my gosh, there are so many amazing nuggets in there, but I just want to ask, show of hands, how many of you stop, I don't want to say on a daily or weekly basis, maybe just once a year, once every month, and ask, really think about what you need. I mean, and I see some hands, which is awesome. Because anybody who has their hand up, y'all go talk to them afterwards.
Come give me some tips.
It's so important, and that is such an important step to really think about what you need. And if you can't think of it, talk to your peers, talk to your friends, talk to your family, because they can see you and really think about what you need. Because if you don't actually think about it and don't express it and don't talk about it, it's not going to happen, because everyone else, they see you as superpowers, and they're going to talk about what they need and what you can do for them.
And can I just add to that sometimes figuring out what we need requires us to slow down. So many times when I'm in sessions with clients and, I even ask them, well, what do you need? I don't know. So do you know what everyone else needs? Yeah, this person needs this person needs this. And sometimes we're not able to identify what we need because we don't listen to ourselves. We don't listen to the cues that our body gives us because we're moving so fast. So sometimes figuring out what we need involves us either slowing down or stopping, which can be really, really difficult to do. But until we are able to identify what we need, it's really hard to meet them. So.
And those outside pressures, I was actually meeting with a group yesterday in her circle, peer advisory, talking as peers, and it's so obvious, right? When I'm listening to these other people, I'm like, well, I could fix her, it's so obvious, and that's why it's so important to get together and to be able to talk about this and find your people. I mean, really, and a lot of it is about prioritization. That's what we focused a really long time on that. Looking at this to-do list, I'm like, what on this list does not have to be done by you? And her immediate reaction was, well, everything has to be done by me. There's no way I can take. So we dug in. I mean, really, that's our reaction, right? Because that's what the outside expectations are of us, is that we're just gonna make it happen. And then we internalize that, and we can't even see, where do we really need to start? What's that one thing we need to do that will propel us forward? And I think that is a piece of what holds us back, is that it's just really hard to define what are those priorities. And we're not getting help, from the outside world, because they're putting all those pressures on us. So,
so we're succeeding. We have the appearance that we're knocking it out.
That's right.
She's a go girl, right? She gets it done. So it's inviting more and more, which is a nice boost to the confidence, but it's
not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. Yeah. And I think we have to value what it's really hard. I think, to your, like, what is that yes going to cost me? It's like, well, I really need to go on a girls trip, but that's going to impact my son and my husband. It's like, why can't we put more value on it, right? It is important, and I think that that's something that I'm personally working on. Is I have my first girls trip since my 3.5-year-old was born at the end of the month. Right? Yeah, so I finally did it. I got to defer it.
That's amazing. Well, and I think this is a great segue into this question of networking and connection, a part of the reason that we're here today and why it's so important. And so I think that, that certainly in the early stages, starting a business or when you're out in a career, you sort of are trying like, oh, okay, I gotta go network and meet a bunch of people. But I would say that it is as or even more important at the mid and even later stages, really that mid stage where you're not in startup anymore and you're getting to that point, getting over that $1 million mark, right? Getting to that next phase, that scaling phase. There's nothing in that area that's really focusing on helping women. And so I think that that's a really important thing, but I think coming together as seasoned, business owners, businesswomen, entrepreneurs, it can really be helpful. So I'd love for you all just to talk sort of about networking and connection and maybe how it has affected your business and helped you.
Well, the scaling phase is an interesting one because I'm in that right now, and I've really tried to view it as, because I love early stage. It invites so many new conversations and just kind of that blank canvas excitement and creativity, which can be intimidating for sure. But it's to me, this is like the next phase of, hey, who can I have coffees with now? Because I wasn't prioritizing that when I was growing. I did it early stage. I haven't done it in a long time. And so tapping the resources, again, it's another opportunity. It feels like I'm starting something new again, which I really thrive on. So I don't know if I'm hitting on the question that was presented.
I think this is, it's great, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's getting me out of my cavern of sorts where I work, I juggle lots of things. I was telling my husband the other day, I sometimes feel with the whole, juggling a lot of things as a woman, I sometimes feel like I am a stay-at-home full-time mom squeezing in a full-time job wherever I can, right? A couple hours here, work, and then I'm staying up late at night, I'm getting up early, and I'm just jamming it in, right? And it doesn't feel fluid. So, going back to this whole like scaling, it's getting me really excited because it's a new challenge. It's uncharted territory, and that's just like early stage, right? It's like, okay, how do I move the needle now? I've earned the success. I'm positioning my team to do more and to add more value because they've gotten through kind of their learning curves. So I need to challenge myself to put together a calendar of like, okay, what meetings do I need to have? Who do I need to talk to? And just chart it out for the rest of the year and into Q1. So that's what I'm personally looking forward to. And I think the roadmap is really important, like making the time to make the roadmap, and then even putting those appointment blocks in your calendar, right? And having a reminder a couple weeks out. Hey, this is coming up. Do you have someone slotted in to have the conversation that you want to have to solve or inspire some new ideas to take on that next challenge as part of the scaling phase?
I often say that I'm a first generation entrepreneur. You know how we used to say first generation college student? I've added entrepreneur in that. I come from a long line of family members that were in the military. And so it's very much, you're in the military, you retire, you collect your retirement, your disability, if you have that coming to you, and that's kind of the pathway. And so when I was leaving education, I remember my dad saying like, are you sure? What about your TRS pension? You're just gonna give that up to do this that isn't stable or secure? So I had that. And then being a therapist in graduate school, they tell you, you are not gonna make money being a therapist. They say like we're helping people. It's very much like we're just serving, but don't expect to make money in it. And so being an entrepreneur, I've realized that I've needed network to know what all is possible, because I don't have a playbook for it. Sometimes, and especially now, it can feel really isolating. So I'm almost in my office like, am I doing this right? Like, is this how I should be? Is this what I should be charging for this? Should I charge more? And so having a network, one, gets me out of my head and thinking like, well, if I charge this, then that feels like too much. I just want to help. And it's really like, help doesn't pay your bills, girl. And so just helping people, it's nice, but it doesn't pay your mortgage. But having a network of women, and specifically I've clung to women who are in the mental health field, who are doing it different, who are starting to realize that doing therapy one-to-one all the time is incredibly taxing and also not sustainable. And so what else can we do with this knowledge and this education that we have? And so it's helped me to see that there really aren't limits to what I can do, even though I haven't seen what can be done yet. And so that's why networking has been incredibly powerful for me.
Yeah. Same. I didn't know a lot about networking. I was always going to trade shows though in my earlier careers, that I always found a lot of value in meeting people. I was thinking it was just sales, right? Oh, I was just doing sales and just meeting as many people as I can. And I think about what I learned over the last probably 5 years. So again, I'm going to be 51, so it took me a minute to really learn the value of networking. And it's seeing some of the successes coming from other brands in the industry that said, oh, well, I just got money from my frat brothers. These are guys I've known for 25 years, so of course they invested in my company. And that's the thing I told my daughter when she went to college this year. I said the most valuable thing you can get out of this education is a network. Don't care. Grades, wonderful. Network, better. And it wasn't something that I had. My mom was also a single mom. She had me when she was 16. She didn't have a college education or didn't know about networking. She was working for $6 an hour at a place and barely keeping us going, but she did it. And I feel like those survivor skills are what I learned, to always be looking for that path out, always be thinking about how am I going to make it, how do I spread this dime as far as it can possibly go. And so again, like the networking opportunity, when I heard somebody saying, I was like, I've been trying to get into the airport bars for 3 years. I think there might be some people at that table over there that can help me do that. These big brands buy those spots. How do we take a minority local brand in an airport full of local Austin businesses and put us right in there? How do we do that? Who do I need to talk to? And so it's like you said, like there's always going to be that connector in the building, and just saying like, hey, this is something I've been working on for a long time. Is there anyone that can help me do that? And you'll be surprised. It's kind of like a live TikTok, right? You put it out there and then suddenly the connections start being made. And so I think, again, even in brand building, the network is where it's at. It is your life force. It is your highway to endless possibilities. And it's something that I'm still working on a day-to-day basis, because like I said, I just wasn't doing it before. I was in the trenches, operating, doing, crunching, just making things happen, paying bills and all those things, and I was not spending any time developing that network. And it's the most valuable thing you can do.
I'll just add something. I think also looking in the non-obvious places, and so adjacent industries can provide a ton of value. I also have noticed and really appreciated a lot more females in banks in leadership roles, and they are fantastic connectors. I mean, they have tons of relationships that they manage. They see what's working well. They have access to lots of financial information, and they can figure out who, whether it's in their own organization, but usually they have just a great external network that can be tapped into.
Well, I'm going to add one thing, and if any of you have heard me speak before, you've heard me say this because I basically say it every time I get a microphone, because I think it's so important, and this is just a little bit of a twist on that, because I believe that the single most powerful thing that women could do to jettison us, like literally jettison us, is to share your networks. So the old boys network, what that's built upon is, oh, wait, hey, I got a buddy for that. I got a buddy who, I mean, it's constant. And I think that sometimes, perhaps it's a confidence thing. Sometimes it's like, oh God, it's a scarcity mindset sometimes that happens where you don't want to share those networks. But what I say is every single, work up from a week, but every single day, really, like, I'm always thinking about, oh wait, I want to connect you with so-and-so, I want to connect. I am doing that far more than I'm seeking, because I don't have to seek when I do that. It's like I end up meeting all the right people, but I'm constantly thinking about how do I make those meaningful connections with people. So I would just encourage all of you, go back today and make a list like, oh, who are 3 of your girlfriends that you hang out with that are doing something that they need a little bit of help on, and where could you help them? We all know people, but we have to stop and actually think about it. It does take effort to do that. So, off my soapbox. Okay, so let's dive a little bit more specifically into mentorship programs, because we kind of touched on this, and specifically women mentoring women, and I'm obviously very passionate about this, not only from what we've done with Austin Woman, but the reason why I launched In Her Circle, which is a peer advisory for women, is because all of the other peer advisories are, which are very successful, and the model is not broken. It's a great model, but they're very male dominated. Often there's only one woman in a group, or sometimes not, and it's really, really challenging for women because we do business differently. So I'd love for you just to talk about maybe some mentors you've had, or things that you've done to mentor, what you've seen that's really powerful when women are mentoring women.
I think probably one of the most valuable things I did was a project that I did with the city of Dallas. I was actually on the city website, and this is probably 10 or 15 years ago. I was trying to figure out when my bulk trash day was. And I saw this little, come mentor, for entrepreneurship. And I was like, oh, that sounds fun. I'm going to click on that. And I actually ended up mentoring a group of high school students from South Dallas. They were, I think, 9th and 10th grade, and there was 5 of them. And we did this 6-week-long project, and I showed them how to write a business plan. I showed them how to develop a menu for a restaurant, and how to think about pricing, and how to do profit margins, and all those kinds of things. And it's probably one of the most rewarding things that I ever think about, because we competed against other teams and other entrepreneurs in the area, and our team won. And it was the only female leader too. And so I love going back to that, because I think there's no limit to age on getting somebody that knowledge. And I think about myself, I would have loved to have known how to balance my checkbook, and how to invest, how to do all of these things that are not just valuable in your business, but they're valuable in developing your life. And doing those things early, taking that 8 or 9-year-old kid and talking to them about those types of things, and if you don't know about it, find your friend who does in that network. That's the most valuable thing we can give, not only to each other, but to our own families. Because we're talking about changing generational wealth, moving into making dynamic shifts for people of color. We have to start early. And that's probably one of the most valuable things I've done that sticks with me. And if I were to go back today, sure, I can help anybody, but I love helping those kids. And they teach you a lot too.
So in 2023, I was feeling really stuck in my business. Like I said, I started right at the height of the pandemic. Everyone was going to therapy at that time. I had everybody. I also, what I didn't mention in my intro was that I had started this thing I called a vision board experience with 9 women on Zoom where I talk through vision casting, mental health, goal setting, and mindset, right? So I did this with 9 women. I posted it on Instagram. Somebody found it from Google, did it for a part of Google. Fast forward, by 2023, I had done that little vision board experience with close to 4,000 people. But in 2023, I started feeling really stuck. Like, how many times can I keep doing this same thing? Like, I feel like I'm tapping out on the people who even want this. And so I joined this mentorship coaching group called The Couch Reimagined, which was put on by this therapist who was helping therapists think through what else you can do besides one-to-one therapy. And so I'm talking in one of the meetings and I'm telling them about, yeah, I've done this vision board experience, but I don't know what else to do. I like helping people, all of this. And she's like, well, tell me about it. And I told her about it and she says, what if you broke that down into like their own separate components and offered these trainings? And I was like, I didn't think about that. So I broke the wellness, mental health part down. I broke the goal setting one down. And then I started pitching to everyone I had done the vision board experience. That session led me to having a whole other arm of my business. So the wellness experience that we created and the goal setting experience that we created, we've done that with close to 1,000 people. Just because that mentor told me like, let's think different about you feeling stuck right now. Is the next thing you need to do already there? And you just haven't had the time, the capacity, the tab, the bandwidth to see what else you have. Like you already have an amazing product. How can you expand it? And so I say all that to say that I think mentorship can really shift your business. When you are an entrepreneur, it's a really lonely, isolating type of place to be in. But when you have people that are not so involved as you are, not so attached, and can really step back and be like, have you looked at this? Have you looked over there? It can really shift the trajectory of your business. So I am grateful for mentorship and having people saying like, there's still stuff there. You might just be mentally tapped out, but what else can you do with that?
So I would say that, I'll be totally candid. I have not been the best at seeking out formal mentors. And if I kind of try to dissect why is that? I think there's, lots of reasons, lots of excuses really, which I'm not proud of. But what I have done, because I think, finding that perfect mentor, one lesson learned is it doesn't have to be a perfect mentorship relationship. But if you do get one, I think some of the things that can increase the value are, being proactive, coming to those meetings, already thinking about, having a planned agenda, really seeking out strategically where that relationship can be mutually beneficial. I'm still trying to be better at formalizing that for myself. But what I have done, I think, is trying to seek out more accessible, informal mentorship and mentee opportunities. For example, I mentioned my cousin earlier. She's 10 years older than me, and I totally idolize her. Her career is a total inspiration. She's an author as well, and writes some amazing books related to careers and women and bias. Actually, she has a great book on bias. And when we have our phone calls, I am definitely tapping into that mentor relationship. I'm thinking about, and what can I ask her that will help me either in my personal life or my professional life? It's very fluid. I'm not structuring an agenda. It's an organic conversation. But I certainly, as we get talking, I'm thinking about, how can I tap into something that will help me? And it's a mutual exchange. It always has to be a give and take, right? It doesn't feel that way. It's organic and fluid, and I think that's really important for our wonderful relationship that we have. And then in another aspect of my life, we have a former nanny. When my kiddo was under the age of 1, we had a nanny that helped us because I had a business that I was launching off the ground, and he was in the NICU for 8 weeks, and it was a trying time, pandemic, snowvid, all those things. So we had a nanny, and she still helps us from time to time. She's in her 20s, and she's launching in her first year of a new career. And so I find opportunities to be a mentor to her, and there's lots of wonderful benefits from that. She stays connected, she trusts me, and she's navigating all those first steps of your career in your 20s. Who am I? What am I doing? What's my purpose? And it's a very, I don't know if you guys remember your 20s, but man, they were kind of, it was a confusing time. To me, I get a lot of value out of the informal mentors and mentoring opportunities in my life.
I think that's great advice, and what I would challenge all of you to do, no matter where you are in your career, if you're just starting out, if you have a seasoned career, is to really think about, what you could do to give back into mentoring. What's your superpower? Because here's the thing, I actually learn more from mentoring than being mentored. It's just amazing, and just the interchange and and exchange of information, and just being able to ask questions of people is really, really fascinating to me, and I learned so much, and it's really fun and inspirational. So I would just encourage all of you to think about that, because you may be thinking, oh gosh, I gotta do this and this before I could ever mentor anybody. But I assure you, every single person in this room has something really important to offer. And it's a great way, again, to start building those networks and giving back. So I encourage you to do that. I want to make sure that we have plenty of time for audience questions. I've got lots more questions here, but I would really love to hear from you guys. So is there anybody who has something they'd like to ask?
Will you share your cousin's name?
Yes. I hesitated. I was going to, and I was like, well, I don't want to put in a shameless plug for my cousin. Her name is Dolly Chug. One of her books is The Person You Mean to Be. And then she's got several others. She's working on one right now that's supposed to launch this fall, called The Good Boss Project, which I'm super excited about. So yes, Dolly Chug, C-H-U-G-H is the last name. Awesome. Thanks for asking.
Oh, yes, here in the back.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Look at Cooey's. I will try to protect.
That's good.
Everyone, thank you so much. My name is Sharanya Rao. I'm an executive and team coach. Your stories were so inspiring. I'm also a solopreneur. And one of the things I'm curious about is, I think you talked about the impact of mentorship. I'm curious, have you all explored coaching, and what's been the impact of that in your career development?
Yeah, so one of the last panels that I was on was probably in February, and it was right maybe like 2 weeks before like my own apocalypse or whatever we want to call that was happening. And one of the other panelists was a coach that was with me, and she said, you know what, I really I would love to talk to you. I have some questions. And I explained to her kind of what was happening, and again, a lot of those changes that were happening were not, it wasn't anything we could control. We couldn't control industry changes, like we're not that powerful. But she offered to come and be my coach throughout the summer, and it was probably one of the most valuable things in helping me get back on track. I had nothing to pay her. It was one of those things where I think if I hadn't had that, my recovery time would have been longer. But she was really helping me kind of see some of those successes, and seeing the things that we couldn't control wasn't because of some kind of mismanagement or anything like that. These were just conditions. And she was like, you know what? So what? She was like, how many times has Donald Trump filed bankruptcy? That we're talking about, it's a tool. It's a tool in a business to restructure, and we've all been taught to think this is a negative thing, but you can use that to gain ground again. And how do we think about these things as tools? It's a business, it's not a baby. And so I was kind of like, wow. So I think for that, that was really valuable for me, because it helped me get back on track, and it really kind of helped me get a better perspective, because I had lost that confidence. I was going through this crazy chaos, and having somebody do that as a coach, but also as a mentor, I think was really important for getting me to where I am today.
And I have a feeling that coach has a lot of room.
Yes.
I was just going to add that the program that I was talking about earlier was a mentoring and coaching, a group coaching program. And if I'm being honest, I was really reluctant to have the support of a coach because in my mind, I told myself that means I'm not doing something right. If I have to ask for help or admit that I don't know exactly what I'm doing, what does that say about me? Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I need to go back to what I know. And so what I didn't realize was that the group coaching program, one, was going to give me accountability, because when you are a solo entrepreneur, it's just you in the four walls saying, hey, what are you going to do today? Are we going to go do the laundry right quick, right? Like, I needed that accountability to say, like, no, you have goals for your business. And as much as you're pouring into everything else, how much are you really committed to pouring into this business? So I needed the accountability. And then I also needed the peer support to know that what I was navigating wasn't just a me issue. One, it's the systems that we are navigating as mental health practitioners, but also there are barriers that other people are having that are the same as mine. And so maybe I'm not doing it wrong. I just need help, right? And so that was the value that I found with having the coaching and the mentorship.
Yeah, and I would love to add just another take on this. Is I think we're kind of talking more about business coaching, but life coaching. Someone in my network, this was about 8 years ago, I guess, no, it wasn't 8 years ago, it was about 5 years ago. Someone in my network said, hey, I've got a friend who is very early in her career doing life coaching, and is this something that you might be interested in? And I said, oh, absolutely, sure, that sounds great, because it was a little bit of a trade. You know, I got a more favorable price as she learned the ropes of her career. But it ended up being such a perfect time for me to have that kind of outlet. I was in the midst of a new business partnership, and it felt a little bit imbalanced. And I was in the middle of a very taxing fertility battle. This is kind of the theme of me and my two kids, lots of years of infertility. And that life coach really helped me, in terms of restoring confidence, keeping me accountable, and offering. She had a business acumen as well, so there was a lot of really robust benefits from that relationship, and helped get me to the other side, and with business and life in general.
Yeah, and I think that the most important word here is the accountability. I think that's so important, and actually taking time to work on your business, right? Or on these issues, rather than just trying to be in it, solving it all the time, kind of stopping and taking a step back. And I think that's a really valuable and powerful thing.
Yeah, and I'd like to add something too, because what we have to remember is we can't do this without men, right? There are so many male allies in every single part of everything I do all day long. This isn't to say anything, negative, or, we have it one way or another, but one of the most important things that she told me, and she was like, Stephanie, not only is this just a business, but she was like, do you think any of those white male CEOs are thinking the same thing that you're thinking right now? Do you think that they're taking that whole weight on their own shoulders? No, they're making business decisions and they're moving on. You got to do that.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's Tanya. So thanks so much for today. I'm very excited to talk in front of a lot of people. But anyway, so I worked for corporate for like almost 20 years, and I start my business at the beginning of this year. So I used to have SOP, I used to have a lot of access and everything, and I choose to do something that I see potential. Right? So what I'm finding is that there's no playbook. I don't have SOP anymore. I hear a lot of mentoring, coaching, and all that, reading books and all that, but it's like, okay, can can you give me some tools that you kind of like help you guide through making decisions? So by the way, my company is called Safe Sphere, and we help small family-owned, medium-sized business to manage their inventory. This is something that I'm very passionate about. When people do it on pen and paper, they can't track where things at, and they'll do stuff left and right. So I saw the potential, but it's like, okay, how do I break in? And there's no way, right? And that's my question. Like,
Well, congratulations,
thank you.
first of all. Yeah, I love that. It sounds like a really exciting business opportunity, so I'm excited for you. I think one really quick tool or nugget, write all those things that you were trying, because you're by yourself, right? You're the sole proprietor here. Write all those things, each one of those things that you are weighing on what to do next or what to focus on, each one on a Post-it note. Very simple chart. Impact on one axis, effort on the other. Where can you make the most impact with the least amount of effort? Chart all those Post-it notes. And hopefully that'll help you kind of circle in on the right business decisions to make next and where to focus your time, because you can't do everything.
Yeah, that's funny. I was actually going to talk about this Post-it note thing. This is kind of how I've always written Post-it notes and or business plans or anything that requires like some type of a manual is with Post-it notes and a blank wall. And you're going to write down your topics and you're going to pop them here, and then before you know it, you're rearranging them all day long, and then before you know it, you have your SOP. That's probably one of the fastest visual ways to do that. And then, now with AI, like you can just go in and put those topics in and have your things. And a lot of that is, I think, ways to make decisions. But for me, like I've made a lot of decisions based on gut. And that's not always the right way to do it. But I think that's kind of some of the brilliance away from corporate, right? Is corporate's going to require a lot of time and thinking and red tape. And when you're an entrepreneur or solopreneur or in a partnership or anything like that, you guys can move and navigate quickly, shift and pivot and do all the things that we got to do to kind of morph back into making decisions. And I love always having, just I'll bounce it off of somebody. Let me bounce this off of you. What are your thoughts? And kind of get that and then navigate. But I think when you really kind of like sit with it for a moment, like I love that she took some time to really think about the real estate deal and take some time, and you're going to kind of get like that. To me, I think women have an intuition that you can really, really lean into.
I think also there's a book called Traction that I was introduced to at one of the Austin Women events recently. That's a really great book to look at. I love one of the things it said. It says SOPs don't have to be 200 pages. 2 pages.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like corporate, sure, fine. But you can do an SOP in a page or two because you're in a different place.
Yeah, it's super powerful. And I know I'm getting a little bit of the high side. I do want to just mention, this is a great place to mention a couple of resources. You asked about resources. So there is actually a SCORE conference, entrepreneur conference, that is on Tuesday, November 5th. And you should just check it out. It's sponsored by Capital One. It's only $30 to go. So I would, again, just showing up here, doing things like that. Also, I just wanted to let everybody know that Texas Women's University, which is based out of Denton, a lot of people don't even know they exist, but they have actually a center for women's entrepreneurship. And they've been doing startup accelerators all over the state, and they are bringing it to Austin this spring. The applications are going to open in a couple of weeks, and it is free. It's a 15-week program, and I will actually be leading the program starting in January, and I'm super, super excited about it. So just take a look out for that. Just check out Texas Women's University Center for Entrepreneurship, and you can find more information. But those are just, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. And certainly the City of Austin Small Business also has so many resources. So really digging in, figuring out, they do classes, they can make connections for you. There's so many things happening So really checking those things out and asking those questions and just going to as many things as possible because you'll learn all kinds of different tips and tricks. Did you have, was there something, I don't know if we have time, do we have, okay.
Hello, thank you so much for coming and speaking with us today. I love how basically now in my mind I'm framing failures as successful failures, which is pretty rad. So my name is Shannon Black. I'm the SCORE Austin chair, and I'm actually the one who's heading the conference. Thank you, Melinda, that we're doing for women next month. But I'm already planning next year's Women Entrepreneurs Conference, and we have a keynote speaker slot, and you were all fabulous, were they not? So my request is, can I please meet with you after this meeting and give you my business card?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, they're like, oh, what do I say? She's got no spot. But thank you very much. I appreciate it. You're wonderful.
Thanks.
Good morning, ladies. Thank you all so much for being here. I love all the things that you're doing. My name is Nina Guilford. I am a fellow entrepreneur in transition. I'm also the program manager with Dress for Success Austin. So you all talked earlier about work-life balance and how that really is not a thing. One, I just want to offer like a reframe or a switch up to be more like work-life harmony. Right? Because it takes a lot of different things to go to make life what it is. My question for you, Ms. Yeah, all of you can answer, but you talked about when you say yes, what is it going to cost you? And I'm so curious for everyone on the panel, but what has it actually cost you to say yes?
Ooh. Wow, that's a heavy question. I'm gonna be honest and vulnerable. Some of what it has cost me is I have had to let go of some of the pictures that I created of who I was supposed to be. I've had to grieve that I can't be the mom I thought I was going to be and do this. I have grieved that there might be some limitations to my business because of the other things that I have to say yes to at time. And so while I am intentional about really being, making sure my yes is my yes, I would be lying if I would be lying if I didn't say that also had to involve me letting go of some of the things that I thought I would be able to do, letting go of the versions of myself that I thought I was going to be able. It's just not possible. And so I've had to be on a journey of forgiving myself for not being able to show up how I thought I was going to be able to. I've had to make moments with my children even more intentional and impactful because I know I can't be that present like I want to be all the time. And that sucks, right? And so I think to your point about what I've lost is I've lost versions of myself that I thought would be existing in this space in my life. And there just isn't place for that picture that I created. And so now I have to realize a different version of myself and celebrate that, but also let myself grieve the person that I can't be.
Any of the other ladies?
I couldn't have said it better than her.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna take my cue from you. Are we wrapping up?
There's one lady that's.
Oh, we got one more question? Okay, we're gonna go for it, absolutely.
Did you want to ask a question?
There's one.
Oh, go ahead, just shout it out.
Hi, good morning. I'm Melinda Montgomery. I'm an independent patient advocate.
Great name.
It's my initials, Melinda Garvey Montgomery. So my question is, being an independent patient advocate, there's not a lot of patient advocates in the world, and especially in Austin. Helping people navigate healthcare is just tumultuous at best. But I'm also navigating spaces where people don't want to share, people don't want to connect you to their network, people don't want to invite you into those spaces. Have you encountered that yourself, and how do you navigate that? Bribery. I think your answer is wrong.
I think time is valuable. If someone's resisting, there's somebody better out there for you that's going to be more receptive.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. Know who your customer is, and know who it isn't. And a lot of times, we get stuck on it's got to look like this and it's supposed to be like this, and then when we spend all the time and go, that's what I paid was that time, and now I know better. And one of the things that I would offer for the last, just the last thought from me is, any day you can wake up and say, now I know what I know, and if I had to do it again, I would do it different, and I can start that today. Because now we do know what we know. I'm not that 21-year-old kid anymore. I know things now. I have a whole nother half of my life coming up, and I can do things differently. I can be that better parent. I can be a better business person. I can learn how to invest finally, and somebody please help me balance my checkbook. But these are the things that I can do them differently. I do have that second chance, and you can wake up that day and just decide that I'm in the second chance phase, and here's what I'm going to do.
Let's give this phenomenal panel a big hand. This is amazing. I have to shout out some keywords: successful failure, accountability. I personally need to close all these tabs. Balance, expectation, take time, adjacent business. Give them another hand, please, please, please. And we have some tokens of appreciation, but before you all go, if you could take the time to fill out our survey using the QR code, or if you need a paper survey, we can get you one, just so we can get feedback on how to make this better. As a reminder, after this event, we will have a fantastic workshop by Sue Malone on small business financing right across the hall. And if you didn't register, no problem. Our team will be out front able to help. Again, I want to thank the mayor and Councilmember Allison Alter for joining us today and always supporting what we do. And before you leave, don't forget to take a selfie by the balloon arch and the halo. There's a one you can stand under with your like a flower hat. So again, I look forward next year. They're going to bring up some tokens of hearing about your growing business. And in your little bags, when you open up this mirror, I want you to say to yourself, this is what success looks like. Okay, so when you look in this mirror, say, this is what success looks like. And before, I want to put my sister departments on blast. If you're interested in getting into the airport or any procurement opportunities, raise your hand, SMBR. Yes. And if you need to learn how to be a bidder, raise your hand, purchasing. Okay. We have purchasing and SMBR in the house, and small business can also help. Again, this was amazing. I love this event. These are phenomenal women. Make sure you meet 3 people you don't know so you guys can start networking. That's what this event is all about. Make sure you meet 3 people you don't know. All right, give them another hand and have a fantastic day.